Alright, time to talk about the Jurassic World trilogy, starting with Jurassic World. And I actually ended up having the entire trilogy be released without me having seen any of these, so this review represents my reactions to after seeing them for the first time literally a week ago. So, be prepared for that. So, Jurassic World, I'm kind of surprised by how mixed my feelings are about the movie. Oh, it's a good movie. It's a good movie, but it took me a while to get into it because this film is the one film in this trilogy that doesn't try to really tie it with the previous movies. It's just, okay, the park is back. There was a Hammond character. Deal with it. And also, it's like, why are they back on Isla Nublar? But then again, they never explicitly state in the films what happened to those dinosaurs. Well, actually, they did because there's that lysinol gene that Malcolm and Hammond were discussing at the beginning of Lost World. Okay, I take that back. But sonar, everything was fine, so if enough people go out there, yeah, just let that bit go. If you can let that bit go and then wait long enough for the characters to truly start gripping you, which they don't until things start going wrong, then the film is better. Not to say that the early parts weren't interesting, because the idea of teaching raptors how to communicate, right? I felt that that was creative, and then genetic hybrid dinosaur. That's about the only other area that this franchise can go in, minus the sea creatures, because that's something that didn't happen in any of the original trilogies, so they fulfilled those areas. So I applaud the movie for taking those strides, so to speak, and just the feel of that park, yeah, totally next gen, but as somebody who's been to all of the big theme parks in LA, well, most of them, because I did go to Disneyland, did go to Universal, California Adventures briefly, don't ask, and Legoland 2 or 3 times, if I recall correctly, yeah. It had a very similar vibe, so they did great with that. The new dinosaurs that they put in there, along with having a mix of the old, and having even the old ones look a little bit different, that was good. The human characters that they had there, yeah, it takes a while for them to make you care about them, because that's my main dislike of the movie. I didn't really care for the characters that much, but the effort that they put into showing these characters, along with the progression of Karen, the snobby bitch at the beginning, to having been through the ringer like Malcolm was and actually willing to take action at the end, actually more than you would expect. Like, that was a great progression of the character, just, man. And her having a previous relationship with the why am I blanking on his name now? Like, that's an ultra fail in my mind. Hey, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Here, Owen. Thank God. Okay, phew. Owen. When that added a surprising layer that I felt benefited the movie. At first I thought they were doing that just for kids, but no, the chemistry that these two had, not so great in this movie, but it was there, so they did great. And the way that this film ended up getting resolved, like the creativeness of bringing out the T-Rex to combat the genetic hybrid dinosaur, and having it be a much closer fight than Spinosaurus versus T-Rex, although how that fight ended up being resolved, I think is actually much closer to how real life it would have been, but for a movie, that was a pitiful fight. But this fight, that's the fight that we wanted! Like, that was great, and especially what they were able to do with the blue character, because I thought all those raptors were interchangeable, but then what they did with blue, going from ally to rogue because of the genetic hybrid dinosaur winning her over, but then they're able to win blue back, and how blue actually ends up cooperating with the T-Rex, and they force the T-Rex genetic hybrid dinosaur partially accidentally, but partially on purpose, towards the sea dinosaur's enclosure, and then you see it burst out and grab the hybrid and drown it. Well, I had actually come up with that idea before I even saw it in the movie, because I had been thinking, you do not put that much effort into a spectacular display with a sea creature and then not use it. Yeah, you've got that other death that happened a decent ways into the movie, but I'm like, that's not enough. You gotta use that sea creature for one other purpose. There's gotta be something, so I predicted it way before it was showed, but then when the hybrid just crashed into the barrier and I realized where it was, I'm like, oh! You know? And then I also love the moment that after the hybrid is dead, Blue and the T-Rex both look at each other, and then you have that odd moment where they should be enemies, but they're both like, well, I wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for you, and then they just walk away. Yeah, like, that was great. And the way things ended with Blue and Owen, like, Blue had tried to attack him a decent amount of times, but Owen just makes it clear, don't attack these people, and Blue's like, alright. And then she just goes. That was great. So it took a while, but I grew to like this movie. Critique-wise, without question, it's a better movie than the third one, but personally, because I wasn't as attached to the characters when I was watching this, I'm not entirely sure how to feel about that, honestly. And is it better than the second? Again, on the critique scale, I'd say that this one is better. On a personal level, not sure. But it is trying to take this franchise in a bit of a different direction. Or at least show the next-gen version of the franchise, you know? So I don't want to think about it too much. I'll just say 4 out of 5 and have done with it. You can form your own mind as to how I rank this in comparison to movies 2 and 3. I'll let you do it. Okay, now Fallen Kingdom. So after that first Jurassic World movie, I'm like, where can this franchise really go from here? Because you've done the theme park bit going bad twice, you've done the factory floor bits twice, so now you're going to have to change things up, aren't you? Well, they changed it up, alright, bringing the focus from an island to off the island, bringing up the idea now that these dinosaurs exist, and they have the capability of getting off the island, sort of. And what are we going to do with that? We obviously can't keep them in captivity. We gotta figure out exactly what to do here. And Malcolm arguing for the dinosaurs that we should just, leave them in peace. It was a nice fitting way to truly tie these films to the previous ones, though I really don't think that Jeff's character really added that much at the same time, and I can't help but wonder if he's been a little inconsistent with how he was in previous movies, but of course, they let his character age. Maybe he had a change of heart. It's possible. You think that I'm the same person that I was when I finished high school? Hell to the no! Right. So, yeah, they introduced the change, But then going back to the island and then showing the natural disaster bit that Karen, Owen, the lab chick, and the guy Eric, what they had to do there, like, yeah, that was great. I got concerned for these characters way faster than I did in the previous movie. And then what they did with the girl character and bringing her bits in there, I really liked what they did there. And I did think that there was something up with her because the way that the elderly woman acted with the girl, like, the girl is calling her grandmother, but the way that the grandmother is behaving, that did not feel like a grandmother's behavior. That felt much closer to the behavior of either a nanny who's known you their whole lives or a mother. Well, that's because she was the girl's mother originally when she aged up. Yeah. So that was great. And then all the bits that they did in the house there, all the escapes from the bad guys, Blue, and then the hybrid raptor, that was good because the hybrid from the first one, Indominus Rex, just the menace in it worked well for that movie, but the raptor, that was really good too, and more appropriate for this movie because just showing, I think it was an Allosaurus in this one. It's like we haven't seen an Allosaurus in the other movies, and we've seen multiple dinosaurs bigger than that. Doesn't mean anything, but the raptor, intelligent. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a random comment that says, you know, had these dinosaurs been smaller, things could have turned out a lot more different. And I think they even say that in one of these two films. And I love the fact that they said that. So that caricature and what they did with it, along with the bad general, just, that was great. And then the moral dilemma that happens at the end, and that's a powerful moment, because I would have felt like they did the right and wrong decision regardless of what they did. But the girl saying they're alive, just like me, that made sense. It made total sense. So, yeah, I had a great time watching this, though unfortunately I don't think it's going to merit the greatest amount of rewatches. But that's what happens when it comes to suspenseful movies like that. They're best seen for the first time, and then you go a really long time without watching them, and then you can be entertained by it again, hopefully, yeah. The only gripe that I actually have with this one is that, honestly, it didn't really feel like a Jurassic Park movie, but that has to do more with the setting. But unlike Lost World, it isn't so much that they had to go for a different angle with this, because obviously that's what they did, and I really enjoyed it, but there's just something about that criticism that makes me want to bring it up. You know, because it's like, sorry, I'm holding this with one hand. It's like with Solo, the Star Wars movie. As a Star Wars movie, I didn't think it was that good, but as just a movie set in the future, I thought it was rather nice, actually. And that's not exactly how it is with this one, because I don't want it to be a big deal, but on the other hand, I feel like I am making it a big deal. So, personal, I'll rate it the same as the previous one, 4 out of 5. Critique, like with the third one, I'm probably not going to give it a rating, but this time I feel like I'm conflicted for a better reason, although you might not agree with me on that. Hey, by all means, you want to make your argument? Go right ahead. I'll hear it. Tell me. Yeah. Alright, and finally, we move on to Jurassic World Dominion. And making that movie a longer movie, I 100% agree with that move, and I feel like that it really benefited it because you had all the proper time that you needed to show these two groups of characters going on their own adventures, then coming together, old meets new, and it worked. Because once they get together, there is no dominance of one group over the other. They both show their respect and appreciation and bewilderment for each other when appropriate, and then they did stuff like just, yeah. Yeah, this was the movie that really tied the two trilogies together, and I feel like that they did great. Updating Grant for you to realize that he and Ellie now have a chance again, and that he might have learned a couple things about himself along the way. Malcolm, how he initially appears still stuck up as ever, but then when he reunites with Grant, he's just like, look at you! Look at us! Who'd have thunk it? That's the vibe that you get from him, where he's genuinely happy to see these two, despite the seriousness of the situation, where he passes the knowledge that he's acquired onto them, where he's like, yeah, these guys are bad people, don't trust them, even though Ellie and Grant are like, you think? At the same time, and then how later on when they're tackling Gigantosaurus, I'll never be able to pronounce that, sorry. And how you're like, dude, don't have a repeat from the first movie with the flare, don't. But then he launches the spear and gets it in there. You're like, ho, 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 ho! He's learned to be quick on his feet. Although, of course, you still have the humorous moment where he's like, a 1 in 10,000 chance. Let's not freak out here. And Grant's just like, open the damn door! That is so typical of those two. That was just great. And then the progression of Owen and Karen, their relationship with the girls, sorry, I can't remember her name right now, Malaise, something like that. And how the evil corporation isn't just interested in trying to use the genetic things for the dinosaurs for the game, they're trying to use her, albeit wrongly, as a cure for disease or that kind of a thing. Well, yeah, it does add an evil side, but the thing is, if they had just been, honest with their intention, it would have worked out better, even though, of course, you have the bit with Dodson, where he's like, I was 24 once, I had ideals, and all that, but I think the assumption that the filmmakers had with this movie is that most people would have forgotten that Dodson, probably portrayed by a different actor, I haven't looked it up, is the guy who gave, Wayne Knight's character in the first movie, the shaving cream, and that he's the antagonist subtly in the books, because most people, they probably don't even know that these movies were based on books, but I mean, like, why would you? Unless you read the credits, and why would you stay for the credits? As I told one of my coworkers, the only reason you would stay for credits in a movie is if you know that there will be a post-credit scene, but if you have it on home video, then you just fast forward through the credits in that situation, or when you're watching the movie, you're like, hey, is that someone I recognize? So then you stick around for the credits, even though tons of celeb cameos in movies aren't credited, so there you go. Then the introduction of new dinosaurs in here, well, I'm glad that they did that. New apex predator, then showing, it's not Pharazinosaurus, which is the dinosaur Nigel Marvin encounters in the Chased by Dinosaurs special, but it's a very similar dinosaur because it has giant claws, just like Pharazinosaurus did in that special. Cameos by pterodactyls again. I'm glad that they brought them back so that they could do something with them like they did in the fourth movie. Changing between bad humans and bad dinosaurs, sometimes having them at the same time. Good move. Using the T-Rex again to save the day. Yeah, it kind of felt a teeny bit overused, but at the same time, I love how the antagonist in the first two movies and briefly in the third one actually came to help them out in all three of these movies, and especially how the way the T-Rex helped them in the fifth movie was totally different. Good screenwriting. I love the fact that they did that. And just that final battle between T-Rex and the Predator that's bigger than it, that was great. I was really invested in that battle because in Jurassic World, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to use another apex predator to get rid of the bad one, but what are you going to do about it? This time I knew, oh, you don't need to worry about the T-Rex if it survives. You're going to be just fine. And then the fact that they continued Blue's storyline across all of these movies, because I was not expecting to see Blue again, but the fact that they keep bringing her back and that she gets through every movie and has a different part in all of them, and how the way it works at the end of the movie, where you know that she and Owen aren't going to see each other again, but despite all they've been through, they're like, yeah, I appreciate you. In a way, I love that scene. That was good. So it was a good callback to multiple themes from the original trilogy, mixing in bits from the new trilogy, again bringing back the evil organization, having this time the threat potentially spread into the entire world, and how the Asian scientist who you got the idea was not exactly the most morally true person, how he ended up helping them in the end and actually taking far less credit than he could have. Like, he's credited with fixing the thing, but he's just literally fixing the thing. He says all the research was actually done by this colleague who unfortunately passed many years ago. Yeah, he's still getting credit, but he's not getting nearly as much credit as he could have gotten. He deliberately made that choice. I appreciate that. That was a nice bit with the character. Unexpected, but it was nice. It came slightly out of left field, but not far enough that I'm like, I'm not going to criticize it that much. Yeah. But the main issue that I've got with this movie is its literal ending, because throughout the movie, and the end of Fallen Kingdom, they're saying the dinosaurs are loose. This is a problem. But once you get to the end, you know that some of these dinosaurs they don't need to worry about. The T-Rex isn't going to bother anyone except for other dinosaurs. It'll be fine. All the herbivores that you see with the elephants in Africa, who cares? They're going to be fine with that. The sauropods, well, if they don't come near any major cities, which they might not, you can deal with that. But like the raptors, sure, you've got the wolf idea, metaphor, with Blue, but not all of them are going to do that. Some of them are going to attack people, even though if we were putting in the wolf metaphor, people know where the wolves are in just about everywhere. Except Alaska, but Alaska's a totally different beast, But like the sea creature, which has gotten loose, attacking all the deadliest catch people, but then all of a sudden being okay with humpbacks? What? How did you get from A to B there? And just suddenly everything's okay? yeah, that wasn't good. And then you do give Grant and Ellie the rekindling of their relationship. They never make it 100% clear, but based on the events that happen in the movie and how they're talking on the end, the subtle message is, yeah, they're together again. It'll take them a bit, but we all know how this is going to end, and so do they. Then giving closure to Owen and Karen, where they just go back into their normal lives with the girl, but now they're not hiding her anymore. Okay, good, but what happened to Jeff? Malcolm, I mean, but where'd he go? So, like with Jurassic Park 3, the actual ending of the movie, it sucked. It was a good product, but the way that it ended, it felt like you were just ignoring the beginning and going, yeah, it's over, dinosaurs exist everywhere, which I freely admit does make sense given what the previous movie was trying to do. What? So, that's overall changing of the circumstances. It makes sense, but it just still yeah, just that ending. You really should have fixed that. You really should have. For critique, free personal. So on the critique scale, this is definitely the worst one that I can define. Yeah. Because this ending bothers me much more than the third one's ending. But other than that ending, I enjoyed the product. Yeah, the science is goofy. It's supposed to be goofy. Yeah. Okay? But it has to feel real just enough to get people in to see the movie. I think they did that. So while the ending of the movie itself was bad, as a way to wrap up this trilogy, I think that it did good. I have the exact opposite reaction to this movie as I did to Halloween Ends, but I'll get to that when I review it. And I do agree with Lucasfilm deciding that next film is going to be a complete reboot of this franchise from the ground up. Yeah, definitely. You stretch this timeline as far as it can go. You've done the soft reboot with Jurassic World. Do the hardcore reboot. Start everything over again. Good move. But I was really glad to see this trilogy, and I do think that watching them all back to back really benefited the experience, because it did feel like one cohesive story spread across 3 movies, whereas for the others it's clearly 3 separate stories in an episodic bit. Not that that's a bad thing. Nothing wrong with an episodic trilogy versus a trilogy with a tight continuity. I'm impressed with many of both. Oh, wow, a whole stinking hour of talking about this franchise. Man, I was loaded. See ya, everyone.